Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the New Age Renaissance podcast. Today, we have a legendary guest with us. He's someone who abandoned being average in order to become great, abandoning the average schooling systems to be self-taught and to become the man he is today. I have with me today none other than Mr. Jordy Brink, hedge fund manager at the age of 29. Jordy, pleased to have you.
Wow, what an introduction, man. Thank you. Nice being here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. No, it's so great being in the same city, being in the same field, learning so much from you and your life and your stories that I think it's something so powerful for the world to get to know you a little bit. And, sometimes there's people in this life that we see that it feels insurmountable to get to where they are today. But to get to have you here today, explaining your story, talking about it a little bit and, just sharing it, it's pretty exciting.
Cool, man. Yeah, you've been smart. You've given me a big glass of whiskey.
We've done it right.
To loosen the lips. So Hershey's gonna let me spill all my secrets today, I think. But no, jokes aside, thank you for the invite. Good to be here.
Absolutely.
And let's go.
Awesome. So we've got a few questions kind of prepared here today. But at any point, feel free to take it on any which way. So we'll be kind of free and open with it, whatever, you feel like you want to share. So starting off, one of my favorite questions to always ask people is, where were you born? And what was your family and school life like growing up? And how much do you feel like that impacted the man you've become today?
Interesting. So yeah, I was born in the Netherlands.
Sure.
A small country, but a big country in terms of entrepreneurship and business worldwide. Yeah. But I was born in a small, let's say, village. Always lived around Amsterdam, and my family, we were just like a normal family, middle class, not rich, not really poor, but we have known times where money was tight. And basically, as a kid, I was very creative, always trying different things, from music to painting to just fun stuff. And I was very curious as well to learn a lot of different things. When I found a topic interesting, I would dive really deep into it. But if I didn't find it interesting, you couldn't really motivate me to do anything for it. And that was a little bit hard in school as well, right? So the fun subjects, like economics, for example, I really enjoyed that. But also, learning about biology or stuff like that, I really dove in head first. But for grammar and stuff like that, you couldn't really motivate me. So that's a little bit in a brief summary what it was like when I was young. Yeah,
the early days.
Days, yeah.
Awesome. And you talk about how you came from a middle class family. You didn't have it great, but you didn't have it too difficult. And some of the subjects and your attention span. But how did that translate into business? Were there different parts of business? Because when you become an entrepreneur, you have to wear every single hat, right? Especially as a startup entrepreneur without much backing of funds or experience. You've got to do everything, whether it's content creation, whether it's, meeting investors, whether it's doing sales. And you've got to learn to do everything pretty well before you can start building a team and outsourcing those roles, right?
Correct, yeah.
So how did you find it within yourself when you didn't like certain subjects or topics to embrace them and to grow into them?
Yeah, luckily for me, all the topics regarding business, I really love them. So from sales to marketing to leadership to building a team, even finance, counting money is fun as well, right? So all the different areas of business I really enjoyed learning about. Definitely my first love in terms of business was marketing. That was really my first love. And after that came sales, learning how to sell. And I started my first little company when I was 14 years old.
Wow.
So it was a little car wash business in my street, washing the cars of my neighbors. And that was my first experience with turning an idea into money.
Tell us a bit more about that. How did you get started? And of course, I was about to ask, with marketing, you need something to market, but of course you picked the car sale or car washing industry. How did that come about? And what were your favorite moments through the journey?
Yeah, so I was 14 years old, and I had an older brother who was 3 years older than me. And basically he was able to work at a grocery store because he was old enough, and I saw him making money, buying his own clothes, and I wanted that as well. But I wasn't allowed to work for a boss yet. And my dad told me, I remember very clearly. He told me that if nobody allows you to work for them, you got to work for yourself. And I basically explored that topic of entrepreneurship for the first time. And I brainstormed different ideas on what can I do. And eventually it became a little car wash business. Created my first flyer, my first marketing piece, delivered that to all my neighbors, and they'll probably thought like, hey, this 14-year-old kid, let's give him a chance, let him wash my car. So that's where the fire for entrepreneurship started. And then later on that grew into what we're doing right now, of course, doing bigger business than just washing the cars of my neighbors. But it's an important learning curve. It's where the seed was planted.
Wow.
And I basically nurtured that for a long time now.
Incredible. And it sounds like your dad was such a guiding light in pushing you towards your success. You told him what you wanted, and he showed you how the world worked and how to get there. So how do we go from car washes all the way up to what you're doing today? What's that progression look like? And what have been some of the biggest pitfalls that most people don't get to see because those are behind the scenes? When you have glory, you talk about the great things, but sometimes those get forgotten. So what have been some of your toughest moments that maybe the world would never know it unless you mention?
Yeah, so I'll give the audience a little bit of perspective. So right now I'm the CEO of a hedge fund that I co-founded with some of my partners. Before the hedge fund, I have ran a trading firm for around 6 years. And it all started, like you said, in the early days with the car wash business. And there have been a lot of pitfalls down the line, of course. But I don't really see it as a pitfall, more like lessons to be learned. Right. So there have been a lot of ups and downs. I'm sure every entrepreneur goes through this cycle of failure, or let's say temporary failure. And in each failure, you find a new lesson. And it's been a very rewarding journey. And I don't mind failing in the short term, because now I know that in each little failure, there's a lesson wrapped inside of it. So actually, one of my quotes that I developed for myself is, desperation leads to inspiration.
Wow.
Yeah, and this is one quote I always hold very near to me in times where it gets rough. I remind myself that the desperation will lead to inspiration. At one time, I will get an idea that will fix the situation.
Wow.
Right?
Right. Incredible. And as you mentioned, these quotes and this mindset, it's not something you were born with. It's something that's a skill, and skills are things that you learn. So you told me a bit in the past about how you left school early. If you could talk a bit about that, and who your biggest mentors and places you learned were during that process that shaped your mind and helped you to where you are today.
Yeah. So the reason for me to go to college
Yes.
was to learn entrepreneurship. And I knew I wanted to know everything about entrepreneurship. I want to build my own company, and I was building my own business on the side. But my first year in business school, I didn't really got what I felt I needed to apply directly into my business. Then the second year, same story. And then in the third year, halfway, I was fed up, and I was like, when am I going to learn the stuff that I really need? Because in college, I was learning things about the pyramid of Maslow, for example. Right? It's a cool theory, but are you going to teach me how to sell? Please. Are you going to teach me how to market? Please. Right? I wanted to do stuff that I could apply directly to grow my business. And then I had a conversation with my mentor at school, and I basically, spilled this conflict that I had. And I remember that she said, "What do you want?" And I said, "I want to be one of the great entrepreneurs, Steve Jobs, Bill Gates. You look up to them."
Definitely.
And then she said, "Look, they're not made here. They're made outside. They're made outside in the real world." And I quit school that same day. I never went back to that school after that day. And for me, it was a very logical decision. Like, hey, this isn't bringing me where I want to go. So I'm going to quit, and I'm going to take a different route. But for my family, It was a little bit different. You know,
Right.
I got a little bit of pushback on it, but not just family, also friends and people that you know, because you know you're halfway year 3, so if you push through a little bit more, you'll get your degree, you have something to fall back on. But for me, it didn't make sense, and that basically planted the seed for me to go the route of mentors, to find the right mentors, and basically learn from them, learn from the people that I look up to. And I remember that I knew that sales was the one skill that I really needed to learn. So I went to YouTube, I typed in some different keywords, and finally, or eventually, I found Grant Cardone.
Beautiful.
Yeah, Grant Cardone was my number one real mentor back in those days. And I was 17, 18 years old back then. So let's say 11 years ago. And I literally bought everything from him that I could get my hands on, like all his books. And I bought a few courses. I went to the US, to the 10X Growth Conference, stuff like that. And just basically try to learn from mentors who are really good in their field.
Brilliant.
So that could be sales, marketing, and later on it became trading and hedge funds as well.
Wow. Okay, so that was a lot of content there to unpack. First and foremost, you talk about how you had so much trouble like with school, and I think a big reason for that was you actually knew what real world business was like. Most kids in school today or in college aren't running their own business already, so they're not trying to extract the knowledge all the time towards their business, whereas you were. Do you think that that's a big guiding factor and something that you would recommend to people going to school today to have something like that?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, because right now in the times that we live in, there's so much information. There's so much information on YouTube. And even in schools, they'll give you a lot of information. But in my eyes, in business or in trading or in whatever, in building success, it's all about the implementation of
Right.
the information, right? So of course, information and knowledge is very, very important. And make sure you check the source. Make sure that the source is correct. That if you want to become really good at sales, find the number one sales guy in the world, get his information, and then just implement. Focus on the implementation.
Well said.
See what I mean?
Yeah. So it sounds like you finished up your schooling and your learning through other mentors, through courses, and you really applied yourself.
Yeah.
Now, you also are a bit of an anomaly. So when someone listens to this, they might just choose to go this route. But what factors do you feel like you had within yourself? What kind of fire in your belly? What kind of mindset did you have that you think really led to you being able to be successful without the hardships dragging you down and making you turn back to school?
Yeah, that's a good one as well. I believe my fire came from that I really enjoyed the process.
Wow.
I really enjoy turning an idea into reality. That's for me what gets me going. Like I said, in times of desperation, at one point I will get an idea that will give me inspiration. I'll get so fired up. I haven't done anything to change the situation yet. It's just an idea, but already in my mind I can see that in a week or in a month or in a year it will change the situation that I'm in.
Wow.
And I really enjoy taking an idea like that and turning it into reality. So at different points in my life, it have been different ideas. So let's say a few years ago, it was, hey, I'm going to learn how to trade. So then I can make money online, or I have a high income skill and I can make money from everywhere in the world, and I can build freedom for myself. Like that's an idea. I get fired up, but I don't know how to trade yet. But it leads you onto this journey
Wow,
of
incredible.
years, of trying to learn how to trade. And then a new idea will pop into your mind. Like, okay, I can trade now. Why not build a team of traders? Why not build a trading firm? Get fired up again, but you don't have the firm yet. So, it's this endless cycle of turning ideas into reality. And
Yes.
it comes with ups and downs, but I just really love this process. And for me, I think until the day I die, it's not for me really about money, a little bit, but it's more about this process of turning ideas into reality. And until the day I die, I will do this.
What an
Yeah.
inspiring quote. That's so incredible. Some of the biggest CEOs in the world have always said, and biggest founders have said that they could imagine the end product in their mind before it even occurred. And so it sounds like you've done that time and time again, getting creative, getting fired up,
Yeah.
and it's your reality in your mind that every night when you sleep, every morning when you wake up, you're imagining that and you're building towards it. So,
And you need that. You need that
Right.
as well. You know, entrepreneurship is not easy. It
Right.
comes with its ups and downs, and you need this faith and this belief in your idea and in yourself and in the team that you're building, that you can literally move mountains, because otherwise it will not happen. If you're the driver of the company, if you're the entrepreneur, if you're the, you know, the one that needs to still believe into other people, if you don't believe it yourself, nothing's really gonna happen.
That's absolutely right. Okay, so we've got some incredible knowledge and information on your roots and where your mindset came from and how you stepped into trading because you loved the freedom it gave to you. Well, now I'm curious a little bit more along the path of what led you to getting into the hedge fund world and how you've created your risk management mindsets and everything along that path. So if you could talk a little bit first about your trading company, what the day-to-day looked like, who was involved with you, to how it evolved into the hedge fund world with more detail. That'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, so the day-to-day in our firm, what does it look like? Well, we started as a really small firm. I started with a small office with the goal to build our first team, right? And that was around 6 years ago, a little bit longer than 6 years ago. And it quickly grew. In 3 to 3.5 years, we became one of the biggest in the Netherlands, in Almere, that opened their doors to starting traders, right? There were bigger firms than we are, but we were the ones that really opened their doors to complete beginners.
Giving opportunities to brand new people in the
Exactly.
industry.
Like no
Wow.
matter what your degree is, or if you have rich parents or poor parents, like the only thing that really count was your motivation and your drive and your will to succeed.
Wow.
That's
Okay.
what we looked at. And we'll teach you how to trade from scratch in 6 to 12 months. And then eventually get you funded as well with the capital you need from investors to build a professional trading career. And that's where it all started. So back then, the day-to-day was heavily focused on this. And eventually this grew to transforming the company to the next level, right? At one point, it made sense to now go one level higher, which is transitioning from a trading firm into a hedge fund. And in the space that we're in the trading space, there's nothing really higher than having a successful hedge fund. And I aspire to reach the highest level. So then it makes sense, right? And now for the hedge fund, the day-to-day changed a little bit because now it's also about talking to investors a lot, talking to partners in the industry, right? Matching up with the right brokers, liquidity providers, you name it, building strong alliances. And so for me, the day-to-day changed a little bit. But that's also the fun part, right?
Absolutely. Have you seen the show Billions by chance?
Oh yeah, I saw it. Axe Capital.
Axe Capital. That's what you remind me of.
And back then when I was watching that series,
Yeah.
it was only an idea for me, right? The hedge fund was only an idea. It was that show was fuel for my idea.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and you know, Axe is his. I think it's his last name in the series, right?
I believe so. Yeah. Bobby
Yeah.
Axe.
Bobby Axe, exactly. And
Yeah.
his company is called Axe Capital,
That's right.
and my holding company is called Brink Capital.
Well done. Well done. Taking inspiration from
Taking
the best.
inspiration from him and a little bit from Cardone as well, Grant Cardone, because his company
Sure.
is Cardone,
Cardone
Capital,
Capital.
of course. Yeah.
Sure. Wow. Very cool. Very cool. So,
Again, mentors.
mentors guide you to greatness. That's absolutely right. So let's talk a little bit about what is your investment philosophy or strategy? Of course, without giving out your secret sauce.
Yeah, interesting. So our investment or trading philosophy for the fund
Yeah.
is we focus a lot on the downside instead of just the upside. And in terms of the upside, we focus on around 2% a month. You have a lot of traders online that scream that they can do 10% or 20% in a week or in a month. And it's possible, you can do that.
Totally.
But risk and reward goes always hand in hand,
Right.
right? And if you do 2% a month, you do 24% per year. and you'll be on a Warren Buffett level.
That's absolutely right. People underestimate the value of compounding.
Exactly. So I believe, don't pin me down on it, but I believe Warren Buffett did 20% a year on average for 40 years or something.
Wow.
Right? He's one of the richest, most successful investors in history. So who are you as a starting trader to believe that you could do 10 to 20 to 30% a month consistently without taking too much risk, right? Without blowing up. So that's a very big part of our investment strategy is we focus way more on the downside, preservation of capital, and then focusing on a 2% upside.
Wow. So you're going to be someone to look out for in the next 10, 20 years because you're here for the long game, not just to come in and make your quick dollar.
Exactly. And in my mind, doing this is the shortcut, is the way where you're going to build real long-lasting success.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, very well said. You know, my next question was going to be about risk management, but you've hit it already in that is your philosophy to manage that so well.
And in terms of risk management, maybe it's interesting to tell that we have two types of risk management.
Sure.
So we have static risk management and we have dynamic risk management.
Fascinating.
Yeah,
Okay.
so static in the fund, what we do is we have 5 layers of static risk management, which basically means that we have a certain amount of risk we take on each trade, on each session, on each day, on each week, each month, right?
Yeah.
And even each year. So I could say 6. So my main rule is the 10-20 rule, which basically means we don't want to risk more than 10% of the capital to make 20% in a year.
Good.
Makes
Wow,
sense?
you sound a lot like Jim Simons, who sadly recently passed away from Renaissance Capital.
The best fund in history.
Absolutely.
The Medallion Fund. Yeah, I believe, speaking about the Medallion Fund, I believe they did 66% average returns over, 20, 30 years.
Right. They're the only
before
ones.
fees.
They're the only ones who could charge 4 and 44.
Yeah, insane.
Absolutely.
Absolutely insane. Yeah, if you can still invest into the Medallion Fund, which you can't, it's closed. But if you can, take this opportunity because it's been I believe it outperformed Warren Buffett by 200 times.
Wow.
Yeah, and we look at Warren Buffett like he's the best one in history, but actually Jim Simons is even better.
His story is phenomenal, coming from a mathematical and quant background, where he demolished in every field before he got into the hedge fund world.
Yeah.
And your breakdown of the different factors that you look for sounds a lot like his creativity he brought to the industry. So maybe he's reincarnated in front of me.
I hope it's not the whiskey talking. I'll take this compliment.
It probably is, but
this guy
absolutely.
it's insane what he achieved.
Right.
And there are also some rumors. I don't know if they're true, but there are some rumors that he actually might be the richest guy in the world.
It's hard to know.
Yeah,
it's hard to know
even more
nowadays,
than Elon Musk because he never really had public stock or whatnot. But if he would have, and he had a private fund as well on the side, I don't remember the name, but if he would probably value it the right way, he would be the richest guy in the world right now. But he passed away.
Sure. Well, I mean, I could go on for hours about the difference between the value of wealth versus the value of influence versus power, to where someone who might not have as much money, like Putin, for example, who has such great reach, could be, worth more in essence because
of the influence, you mean?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, but coming back, because I'm sure our viewers are very, very interested in what you were about to say, not about the static, but now about the dynamic side.
Oh yeah, of course, we got sidetracked a little bit there.
Yeah, with too much fun.
Yeah, so for the fund, we have static risk management.
Sure.
We have dynamic risk management. And dynamic basically means that we adapt to the current market conditions. Right?
Understood, sure.
So we're an algorithmic fund. So that means that our algorithm chooses when to get in and when to get out of the market. And the algorithm obviously has been written by humans, but the investment decisions is done by the algorithm, and it's overseen by humans. Anyway, in the algorithm, there's a dynamic risk management feature as well. So if market conditions change, and one of the parameters is, for example, the average true range, which is, the average range a pair moves in any given day, it adapts to the average true range, right? So if it becomes greater, it will adjust its risk parameters, its take profit to the bigger range. If it becomes smaller, we'll adjust it as well.
Beautiful. That's very well thought out.
So it's not AI,
Sure.
not yet,
Not
but
yet.
it's machine learning.
Yeah, sure.
Right? So the machine learns from changing parameters and changing market conditions. And it's one of the reasons why our risk management is so really good. If I can say so myself.
No, absolutely. I've seen the performance. We've been seeing it
Yeah.
every day. Absolutely.
Yeah. So just for the listeners, 2023, we've done 24.2% in returns, and the maximum drawdown was minus 4.3%. So we stayed below the 5% drawdown to make 24% in returns.
Absolutely.
And if we can pull this off for the next 40 years, we'll be on Warren Buffett's level.
100%. And you won't even be offering it to investors at that point. You'll just be so big that
Yeah,
it's all
and
internal.
that's one of the things I'm glad you mentioned this, in the hedge fund space. The really good hedge funds, the bigger ones,
Right.
they're closed for outsiders,
Absolutely.
or they're closed for normal people. I believe Bridgewater Associates from Ray Dalio, it's closed, but average ticket was $100 million. And needed to have a net worth of $5 billion to get in.
Way. Wow.
Right?
Those are different kind of conversations happening over there.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's cool that we, as a starting hedge fund, we can open the doors to smaller investors, right? So
Absolutely.
125,000 euros, that's the minimum amount for getting into our hedge fund. But recently we had our initial raising phase, and we spoke to a lot of investors that really wanted to invest, but they couldn't because they did not meet the 125K.
Right.
So this, we started 2 weeks ago, we started a light fund or light model where you can get in even below that number and still leverage the same strategy that is being traded into a fund. So even if you're a small investor, you can still get good returns with very minimal risk.
It's very true. And that's something I respect so much about you. You can see time and time again, you've had hardships. Like while you were in school, you didn't feel like there was a great path to get ahead. But then when you got into business, you tried to create the path for other people. You can see that with the trading company where you're funding the newest traders. Did you have to do that? No, you could have gone to guys who already were successful traders and give them funding to grow together. But no, you said, I'm going to go to the guys who look for an opportunity. And yet again, in this hedge fund stage, you're doing the same thing. The guys that cannot get through compliance, you're not saying, oh, forget them, let me go for the rich guys. That one investor can meet my criteria. You're like, no, let me give back. Let me find a way to serve the community that was there for me, that represents me when I look at them. So well done on that.
Thank you so much. Exactly, because I have been that guy as well.
Right.
I did not come from a rich family, but it's cool to open up the doors to people that have a dream, that have an idea, and to help them put that into reality. Because I've been the same, and I still have ideas that I want to turn into reality, and I seek out mentors, and some mentors, they help me. And I believe this is also, part of the process of entrepreneurship.
Definitely. I'd like to ask you a question. With such focus towards the risk management side and making sure things go smoothly, has there been a situation in this past 2 years of operation where you had something very unexpected happen to where you had to make a quick decision on how to pivot? And what did that look like, if so?
Do you mean for the fund, or do you mean for the trading firm?
For the fund.
For the fund. Yeah, for the fund, it's a little bit difficult because we started at the end of 2022 building the track record.
Right.
2023 was our first full year pre-launch, and we launched only here in 2024. Right? So there haven't been that much really big challenges that I had to pivot. But if we were talking about the trading firm itself, then I recently, or 2.5 years ago, I moved from the Netherlands to Dubai.
Sure.
and I had built my firm there, my company. I had built the team, and I was always there in the day to day. Very short lines of communication, and I got used to a style of management that when you remove yourself from the equation and you go on a 6-hour flight in Dubai and trying to build the next office there, then it changes a little bit of how you interact with the team, and that was a big challenge for me that I did not know on beforehand, that it would change this much. But and that's the beautiful thing you learn through this experience. So you need to learn a new style of leadership. You need to delegate more to other people, put people in positions of power in your company, and depend on them of doing a good job.
Wow. So on that note, I find it so interesting to expand to a new territory by yourself without your guys and see who's stepping up to plate. Did you find that the team was stepping up to plate in a certain way that you did not expect? And how do you maintain communication with them? Do you have scheduled meetings that you do on a kind of a rhythm, if you would?
Yeah, so for the sales team, eventually what we did is we did a morning meeting and an end of day meeting. And
Okay.
then every Tuesday we did a general assembly. So just to make sure that the sales guys are fired up every day, which is important, of course. And then for marketing, we did weekly or 2 weekly meetings at the start of the week, at the end of the week. And then for trading, my head of trading, I had contact with him every single day, of course. But we had also, let's say, one big meeting a week. So it's eventually that's where it landed. But in the beginning, it was a little bit messy. I have to be honest with you. But that's the fun thing. And um, the hardest thing in a company that grows is keeping the team together, is to make sure that everybody is fired up, that targets are clear, that KPIs are met. And if you're on a distance, then you need to rely on other people even more than if you're in the office. Yeah.
It sounds like the same journey you go through with having a child and slowly letting go of, being with them
Yeah,
every
maybe.
day.
Maybe
Yeah.
I don't have children yet, but I can
Sure.
definitely imagine. Yeah.
Right. Wow. Very, very incredible to hear. So, going through this discussion about the hedge fund world, how do you ensure that you maintain a balanced life despite the demanding nature of your job?
Yeah. So for me, I really, really enjoy what I do, and I really enjoy working with the team. So for me, it doesn't really feel like work most of the time.
Okay.
It is very demanding, so I'm working a lot of hours per day, per week. But even going to the gym, I see it as part of the business. I see it as part of being in a state of high performance, right? So um, reading books or having meetings, like everything compounds towards the goal. And enjoying that process, I believe that even if you work very, very hard, it doesn't feel as hard or as heavy, right?
Well said.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something I really like about you as well. The fact that you prioritize continuous development. Because even if you keep working, you'll get to a state of mind where your mind is poor. But reading the books, it keeps you sharp, and like your quote says, you stay inspired that way because you've always got fresh ideas coming in. It doesn't become stale,
Yeah.
like a stale, pond that becomes a swamp. So, very, very well done. Now, a question I have for you is, what do you feel like is the biggest differentiating factor between a very successful hedge fund manager and someone who doesn't do so well?
Yeah, so in my eyes, a successful hedge fund manager knows that you cannot build $1 billion fund by yourself.
But
If I have to summarize it into one sentence,
sure.
right? So for DGF, I basically have 3 core values that I wrote down the moment that I started the company. The first one is, the more you learn, the more you earn. So it's all about knowledge. The second one is, teamwork makes the dream work. And that's all about the team. You have to realize that you cannot build a big company by yourself. um, especially not a big hedge fund. And then the third one is the sky is not even the limit,
Well said.
which is
Well
mindset,
said.
right? You need to think
Sure.
big. And I read a book a few years ago. It's called What It Takes from Steven Schwartzman. Steven Schwartzman is the founder and CEO of Blackstone. I believe $40 billion under management. And in the book, there I don't remember the chapter, but it's in the book somewhere. He said that at the start of his fund, he realized that building a small fund is just as hard as building a big fund, and that resonated with me really like a lot. So that's definitely something that I instilled as a core value. The sky is not even the limit. Just think big, build the right team, and then the more you learn, the more you will earn.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. Now, Jordy, if you had to go back and give yourself advice 10 years ago, is there anything you feel like you would tell yourself to change your journey or, to just spend time with yourself and instill values that you have today?
So if I had to go back 10 years and tell myself a piece of advice, yeah, what would it be? Really good question.
We can come back to it if you want a second.
Yeah, let's come back to it
We'll
later.
come back to
Yeah.
that one. Okay. Let's talk a little bit more about your mentorship journey, right? You're someone who has really stepped into and submerged yourself into this world of mentorship. A very common saying that we hear in this world of personal development is you become the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And no matter who you are, where you are, you can choose what those 5 influences are. Even if they aren't people you can physically get around, you can choose whose content you digest. And you can think about who the perfect version of yourself is like, or what your potential looks like, and how they act, and what the mentors that are doing that today are like, and choose those people accordingly. So the question tied to that is, what is the best piece of advice that you have ever received from a mentor?
Woof. Look, here's the thing. I've had a lot of different mentors and still
Right.
have
Sure.
on many different topics. But I clearly remember when I was around 17, 18 years old, when I quit college. That for me, that was a time of hope and belief and faith in myself, but it was always also a time of desperation,
Right.
right? And for me, there was the seed was planted that I need to find a different source of information. I need to find good mentors. And one of the first books that really, really changed my paradigm was Think and Grow Rich, right?
Napoleon Hill.
Napoleon Hill. And there's one line in the book, I don't remember it word by word, but it was along the lines of, if the mind can conceive it and you believe it, you can achieve it.
Nicely
Right?
said. That memory,
Yeah.
sharp. Love it.
I believe that's the quote. Don't pin me down on it.
Well,
But
the way you said it is probably better than the book. I'm not gonna lie.
I hope so. But I think that's a piece of advice from a mentor that I never met in person that had a huge impact on my paradigm. Right? So if you
Right.
can conceive it in your mind and you truly believe it, and that's the part you have to do yourself as well, right? You need to reinforce that belief over and over again. And I have a tip on how to do that. I'll tell you later.
Oh, okay.
But but if you do that correctly, you can achieve it. Right? So back then I probably did not even know what a hedge fund was. Right?
Yeah.
And now we're doing it. And building $1 billion fund seems far or seems very big, but if you really believe it, you can achieve it.
Well
Right?
said.
And it doesn't matter what you want to achieve. If you want to become a really good lawyer or a teacher or a parent or whatever you choose, if you believe you can become very, very good at it and you reinforce that belief over and over again, it will happen.
Absolutely. And I love that you named that book. It's actually my favorite book of all
Really
time.
nice.
Yeah. Have you ever by chance heard the story behind the book on the parties involved and how it got written?
Yeah, I believe so. It was Andrew Carnegie, right, who gave the assignment to Napoleon Hill to write this book, and then he interviewed some of the most influential people in the world, and he basically distilled this knowledge from his search and his research and talking to these people. Is
Well
that
said.
correct?
Well said. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, he gave him an offer of a lifetime and he told him, here's this offer, to go spend the next 20 years of your life talking to some of the most rich, some of the most famous people in the world, and I'll give you a personal letter to go spend time with them and to learn from them. And I want you to find what factors all these different individuals have in common that leads them to success. And he didn't know it, but he only had 30 seconds to answer the question.
Really?
Because if he didn't say yes within that amount of time, the offer wouldn't have existed past that. Because something that was known at that point is successful people make decisions quickly
Yeah.
and then change their mind slowly, whereas unsuccessful people decide very slowly and then change their mind quickly. So
Mm, I love that. I love that.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So, he went on this journey. He wrote this book and it's made more millionaires than any individual person ever has.
Yeah, and I think the number one reason for that is because the book, it will change your paradigm.
Right.
It will change your belief and your way of thinking. And that's the source,
Incredible.
right?
I think we found the answer to the last question. If you could go back 10 years, you would just hand this book to yourself probably.
Voila. Exactly. Yeah, maybe that's the right answer to the question. Like if I can give myself a piece of advice 10 years ago,
Right.
it would be read this book, read it 3 times, and try to extract the lessons from it. Um, and your paradigm will change. And when you keep changing your paradigm and your belief systems and challenge yourself a bit, like, what do I believe now that is actually untrue? Right? If you keep challenging yourself in that way, because we all have these insecurities or false biases, right? This cannot be, I cannot do this because of this. Well, is that really true? Challenge that. Find somebody who can teach you how to do that. And if you keep challenging yourself that way, your dreams might become reality.
Wow, you're talking about limiting beliefs, things that limit you
Exactly.
because you have them.
Yeah.
And, sometimes I also like to look at the 7 deadly sins, as old as they are, and see which ones I'm bringing too much into my life, whether it's pride or whatever it is. So
I love it. You really read the book, eh?
definitely studied.
Good.
Good, man. Well, okay, stepping off the side of the hedge fund world a little bit, more about
Yeah.
yourself, what habits do you personally attribute for most of the success that you have seen in your own life?
Yeah, so habits. So one of the most important habits that I instilled for myself ties back into reinforcing the belief. So I got the idea from Jim Rohn. You might know Jim Rohn as well.
Sure.
And in one of his audios, he talked about journaling. And when I was 18, 19 years old, I started with my first journal. And it felt a little bit uncomfortable, but I instilled the habit for myself to journal daily, my goals, what happened, things that I'm aiming for, roadblocks that I'm running into, the highs, the lows. And now I started when I was 18. I'm now almost 30, right? So I have, let's say, 12 years of journaling under my belt. And if you're at my home, you'll see a big stack of journals.
Wow.
And I can literally take one journal, go back in time, and read with the date my thought process, where I was.
Wow,
And yeah,
incredible.
and I have this vision for myself that when I'm old, 80, 85 years old, I have this library of journals where somebody, my grandchildren, they can go and read my life, read my lessons, read quotes from mentors, read my ups, my downs, whatever. And for me, I can do the same thing now. So if I'm in a state of desperation, I can go back into time, read about other times where I was in desperation, and I'm like, huh, I'm nowhere near where I was back then, right? So desperation leads to inspiration, and you'll find a way out. So it gives me so much belief and so much energy. So for me personally, journaling, keeping track of what I'm doing, it's been my number one success habit.
Wow, that's such a huge nugget. I'm so blown away by that. I'm imagining, like you said, your kids right now, rather than probably going through the physical books, all of that will probably be put into an AI to
Yeah,
where
hopefully.
they can go into VR and just swipe left or right to change your age and talk to you at
Yeah,
that age. And that AI will have those mentalities because you've poured that mentality onto paper,
yeah,
which is very incredible. But let's dive a bit deeper into your journaling, if you don't mind, because I think
of
this is
course.
something that'll really change a lot of lives to inculcate within their own. Do you have a structure on how you journal exactly? And has it evolved over time, would you say?
Yeah, so it's a good process. What I found for myself is if you're in a state of anything negative, write down the negative, but always end positive. Always try to turn the negative into positive while you're writing it down, because it's an act. Your ideas are flowing, like you're almost manifesting a little bit, right? And you don't want to
Incredible.
manifest anything negative. You want to write down the negative and then reverse engineer it into something positive.
Wow. You're
And
changing the glass from half empty to half full
oh yeah,
in minutes.
yeah. And that's the cool thing about journaling as well. Like if you wake up in the middle of the night sweating with whatever on your mind, just take out pen, paper, write it down, and then just try to fix it in that moment. Try to turn it into something positive. Even if it's not true yet, just write it down, and then it will become positive in your mind.
Very well said. Now, do you have a certain time of day you find best for journaling?
No, not really. It could be mornings, could be nights. Sometimes I even skip it for 2, 3 days because I'm just too busy.
Okay.
But if I skip too long, I will start to notice, and then I'll just take out my journal, I'll write some things down. Maybe I'll catch up from a few days back,
Right.
and just keep track. And for me, it's really helpful. For some people, it might not be really helpful, but for me, it's been a gem for sure.
I'd be surprised if it isn't helpful for everyone because it's a time with yourself to unplug from everything. You know, I think we're so connected to our phones and media and other people's opinions that shape us, where we don't take much time for ourselves to really think introspectively. So I absolutely love the practice. And it sounds very similar to going to the gym for you. If you don't go to the gym for enough days, you know,
Exactly.
you
Yeah.
can start to feel the difference. So that's an incredible habit. Absolutely love that. Now, next thing here is you've kind of talked about it a few times. I was going to ask you, you know, if you could share one piece of advice with the world, what would it be? Would it be something different than the quote you've been sharing up until now?
One piece of advice. One piece of advice that I would like to share is it ties in with everything else we talked about. But um, the thing that you obsess about, it will become the reality, negative or positive, right? So if you obsess about not having enough money or not being good enough or not having the right resources, you'll stay in this loop. You'll reinforce this loop. But if you obsess with, I am good enough, I am going to make a lot of money, I am going to make this idea a reality, I am going to launch this business, I am good at this and that, you'll reinforce it, even if that at that moment it's not true yet. But in the end, your obsession will become your possession.
Incredible. What powerful words.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Well said. Well said. So if you focus on good things, good will come to you. If you focus on bad things, bad will continue to come to you.
100%. And no matter
Mhm.
what area of your life. And sometimes it won't feel like it, but in the end, it will.
Well said. Well said. Now, looking at things on more of a global scale, is there anything happening in the world today that brings you great concern? Are you someone that stays up to date with news quite a bit, or do you kind of focus on your business because you've got so much going on? Where do you stand on that side of things?
Yeah, so I definitely stay up with the news because it's important for my job as well and for the fund.
Right.
So we need to weigh world events, and we need to weigh it, what impact it will have on economic, economic fluctuations or whatnot. But
The mood in here just got real
the mood
nice.
changed.
Yeah, for anyone just listening.
It's time for more whiskey mood. Anyway, where was I?
Talking about world events and news
Oh
and
yeah,
how it
yeah.
factors into your
You
fund
can
and day
see
to
how
day.
world events impact things, but no, it's definitely important to stay up to date with world events. It can definitely impact the economy, so that's why I look at it. Is there any particular thing that I'm worried about? Yes. On a personal level, there are two big wars going on, of course, and I don't really have control in the situation,
Right.
so I don't try to get involved too much. But it does concern me. It does really concern me because a lot of people's lives are at stake, and I believe it's not really necessary on a global scale to fight these wars and um, you know
Right.
but there's no real control that I have over it. Um, so I don't try to make it my everyday focus. Let's put it like that.
Right. So, up until this point, we've talked about your history. We've talked about your present. We've talked about your mindset. Something really exciting to talk about is your future. And with, humans, people are cyclical and cycles repeat.
Mm.
You've proven that you have an incredible creativity and you can envision greatness in and off yourself. And I'm sure you have great dreams for the future. Are there any dreams you'd wish to share? And, talking about the lack of control, I'm sure that's very frustrating to someone like you who has so much good to give to the world. Are there ways you envision growing in order to bring change to the world and to help the world as well?
Yeah, so interesting question. I like that. So let's say if I focus on what I can do to change the world,
Right.
our company is called DGF, right?
Yes.
So our trading academy, it's called.
Sorry to interrupt you right there. DGF. What does DGF stand for? To just share
Yeah,
it.
so originally it started as Daily Green Forex.
Right.
And how did we get the name Daily Green? Well, at the very beginning of starting my trading firm, we had a very small office. It was just me and my partner. And we were like, okay, what is the goal of the company? And back then, we're trading on C Trader. If you trade on MetaTrader, when you're in profit, it turns blue. If you're
Right.
trading on C Trader, when you're in profit, it turns green.
Got it.
So what is the goal of a trader? Well, you want to make green daily green. And what are we trading? Forex, right? So that's where the name Daily Green Forex came from,
Beautiful.
DGF.
Awesome.
And then later it was, okay, we're going to start a hedge fund. How are we going to call the fund? Daily Green Fund, right?
Right.
And coming back to your question about changing the world, I believe we're already changing the lives of people through Daily Green Forex, teaching starting and struggling traders how to become professional traders. We're already changing lives through Daily Green Fund. So we have a hedge fund that is open to professional investors, achieving nice returns, and we're challenging the benchmark there. Now, recently we started DGF Lite, that is open for small investors from 10K, 20K.
Right.
But I hope that in 5 years or something, I can start another DGF, Daily Green Foundation, where we go into countries that are underdeveloped, that do not have the money to invest either into their education or their trading account. And our Daily Green Foundation will provide all the funds for that. Give them a laptop, give them education, teach them how to trade, get them funded, and basically turn somebody from a third world country, turn them into a successful trader and change their lives that way.
Absolutely brilliant to hear. Very well done. And do you have any philanthropic views that, so to give you an example, personally, I see a lot of people that speak poorly about very rich, very successful people. Like they could donate more, they could give more, they could do this. But like we were talking about, that state of negativity brings you into further negativity, less success. But, you know, a great framework of mind to take that glass from half empty to half full, like you were talking about, is to look at it as that person broke the mold. They didn't go to what was easy and comfortable. They put everything on the line to start a company, to grow a business. Yes, they were rewarded heavily for it, but in that process, in that pursuit, they provided jobs to so many people. They added economic value to communities and to neighborhoods. And in that pursuit, yes, they were rewarded, but they deserved that reward because they added value to society. And they can do what they please with their money because they earned it. They shouldn't be bound to, just doing philanthropic ventures. But it's so beautiful that a man like yourself who wants to give back to the world so much will put in that work to create that economic impact and wealth. And then you also want to give it back and to do more and more. What have been your biggest influences in the way you think and your mindset in philanthropy, if you would?
Yeah, for me, it's I learned from mentors,
Right.
and I'm still learning from mentors, and I want to help other people as well and be a mentor for them. So it's not really I don't know if it's really profound, but I just enjoy it. I enjoy learning from people, and I enjoy teaching what I've learned. I enjoy teaching from, the experience that I've had, and hopefully later on we can start something like Daily Green Foundation, and expand the number of people that we can help.
Beautiful. Well said. Well, I think we should wrap up with maybe 4 or 5 book recommendations that have changed your life so drastically that you really think would impact listeners today. And if you could give a short synopsis about each of the books and why you think they're very important.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Awesome.
So I have a library at home, man. I can give you a lot of
Sure.
recommendations. But one being, of course, Think and Grow Rich. But we've gone through that one already in this podcast. There's another very interesting book. It's called The Compound Effect. Or no, it's called The Compound. 1 second. Compound Code, maybe.
Okay. Everyone has Google. They can figure it out.
Yeah.
But
I think the writer is Dan Hardy.
Okay.
So if you search that, you'll
Sure.
find it.
Sure.
And basically it looks a little bit like Think and Grow Rich, but it's more practical. It's all about how your daily actions compound over time into big results. And in our firm, I call this daily discipline.
Nice.
Right? So I teach people to formulate a daily discipline, something you do every single day, but you form it in a way where you first look at your big outcome, and then you reverse engineer your daily discipline. So if we take a very simple explanation, you want to become big and ripped, right? You want to build that dream body. That's the big outcome. Okay, reverse engineer that. How much time will it take? And what do you have to do every single day, the small tasks that will compound into the big result? Because going to the gym today will not give you the dream outcome, right?
Sure.
But doing that every day, not drinking soda, but drinking water, eating healthy, getting the right amount of macros, calories, etc., protein, that small tasks every single day, that daily discipline, that will compound into that big outcome. And it's the same thing with building a company, becoming a professional trader, building a hedge fund, raising capital. They're all big outcomes. And now you need to figure out what is the daily discipline, what is the compound effect that I want to put into action, because it's a law. It's not just a theory, it's a law. If you do the right things every single day, it will compound into big results.
Oh, I'm absolutely sold to read this book. Super excited.
All right, so
Incredible.
that's either the compound effect or compound code,
Sure.
either one of those two names. Let's see, what else? Yeah, do you have a particular subject you want to have a book recommendation for?
Okay, it sounds like both of these are quite a bit more around the mentality scope.
Yeah.
Maybe something to grow your business acumen might be a good next recommendation to throw into the mix.
And what do you mean with acumen?
Acumen meaning the thing I find so beautiful about books is unlike a YouTube video or a quick short or something, you're able to take 20 years, 40 years of wisdom, of
Yeah.
experience, and put it in a single place where someone can absorb that and grow leaps and bounds, and they can reread it year after year and get new ideas from it. Acumen being the collection of that knowledge, essentially. Something in the business world, if you have a book like that.
Wow. Okay, that's a harder one.
Sure.
But if you want to look for 40 years of experience in one book, I would say read a good biography.
Okay, like, have you read Principles by chance?
I've read Principles, yeah.
Okay, that's
from Ray Dalio.
right.
Yeah. I've read Snowball from Warren Buffett as well. I like that one, really.
Okay, maybe that's the book.
Yeah.
Third recommendation.
Yeah, so like I said, Warren Buffett is one of the biggest and the best in the history of investing. 20% on average for 40 what years.
Right.
Like it's amazing what he did. And in Snowball, you can read a lot about his life and how he started and his philosophy as well. So if you want a book that is condensing 40, 50 years of experience in the trading hedge fund investing space, not really a hedge fund, but you know what I mean. He
Sure.
started with a hedge fund, by the way,
Right. Yeah.
but eventually became Berkshire Hathaway. Read that book, Snowball.
Well said. Awesome. Maybe something on personal development or
Yeah, so the
Mhm.
compound effect, personal development, Think and Grow Rich. Let's see what else. Oh man, I have so
it totally put you on the spot. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you've got a huge library, so it's hard to select.
Yeah, I got a lot
fair
of books,
few.
a lot of books, but sometimes it comes from unexpected books. Like in every book, you'll find a nugget, even if it's
Right.
not really a good book.
Sure.
If you look for it, you'll find something useful. Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, Jordy Brink, I truly appreciate you making the time and sharing your vast knowledge with the world here. And I'd like to wrap up this podcast with you talking about maybe ways people can connect with you and keep track of your journey and how to get involved with everything you're doing.
Yeah, of course. So the company name is Daily Green Forex or Daily Green Fund. So if you Google either one of those or on YouTube, you'll find us. And me personally, my name is Jordy Brink, JORDI BRINK. So if you Google that or you'll look on Instagram, you'll find me. And if you're interested in learning how to trade, or if you want to invest into our fund, if you want to connect or invite me to to a podcast, then just send me a message and we'll go from there.
Beautiful. Well, folks, I want to end with this. Make sure that you form your own opinions, you level up daily, and you enjoy the process. Cheers, and we'll see you at the top. Take care.
Amen. Thank you, man.
All right. Cheers, brother.